My name is Ethan Cole. I'm 34, living alone in a small apartment a few streets away from the house where I grew up. For 5 years, I sent almost every spare dollar I earned into one thing: paying off the mortgage on my parents' house. $680,000. A number so large it stopped feeling real that I used to imagine the moment it ended. Maybe a quiet dinner. Maybe my father saying he was proud. Instead, I got a phone call. No greeting. No pause. "I know you paid off the mortgage," my father said. "All of it. But we're giving the house to your brother as a graduation gift. And you're not invited to the party. I don't want your attitude there." I stared at the wall, sure I'd misheard him. My younger brother Lucas had floated through life while I worked double shifts to keep that house out of the bank's hands. And somehow, I was the problem. When I asked if he was serious, he told me to stop making everything about money. Said family should be happy for each other. Then he hung up. I sat there with the dial tone buzzing, then called the one person who knew the truth about those payments. "Do you want to tell them?" I asked. "Or should I?" Growing up, I learned early how to disappear. Our house in Rochester wasn't special, but it held every memory I had. My father, Michael Cole, tied his pride to that roof. He ran an auto repair shop and saw himself as the man who kept things running. At home, though, all attention went to Lucas. He was the future. My mother, Helen, moved between us, cooking, smoothing things over. With me, she assumed I'd cope. With him, she assumed the world would be. Why my teens, I stopped asking. If there was money for something, it went to my brother. I adapted. I worked, studied, took any job I could. Independence became my default. When I left for college and work, that pattern hardened. Small apartments. Used cars. No help asked for. None expected. Back home, my father's business began to fail. Fewer customers. Bad seasons. The mortgage slipped behind. They never explained it outright, but I heard the strain in their voices. On one visit, I opened the wrong kitchen drawer and found a stack of unopened bank letters. Holding them, I realized how close they were to losing everything. I could have closed the drawer and walked away. Instead, I sat on my old bed and did the math. Paying would slow my life down. Promotions, savings, freedom, all delayed. I chose it anyway. The payments started quietly. Month after month, money left my account and chipped away at a debt that wasn't mine on paper. My father talked about his sacrifice. My mother thanked me in private but never corrected him. When things got dangerous, my uncle Richard Hale helped set up a trust to protect the house. My name was on it, tied to responsibility and rights I barely considered then. Years blurred together. Work, transfers, statements. Seasons changed outside my window while proof of my sacrifice stacked up under my bed. Inside the house, the distance grew. My role stayed unspoken. When Lucas entered his final year of college, everything revolved around him. Graduation plans. A party. A fresh start. By then, the mortgage was almost gone. I imagined a moment of honesty. It never came. Instead, I learned they'd planned a celebration without me, in a house I'd saved. Something finally cracked. I reread the trust documents properly. My name wasn't symbolic. The house wasn't a sentimental gift. It was legally tied to me. Graduation weekend arrived like a test. The house glowed with lights. Relatives talked about Lucas's future, his job, his plans, his house. And my father told a polished story about holding everything together. Then he said it out loud. The house was Lucas's graduation gift. Before the applause settled, my uncle calmly reminded everyone the house couldn't just be handed over. Trusts, agreements, responsibility. The room shifted. The celebration never fully recovered. A few days later, I came back alone. Decorations gone. Street quiet. I put my key in the lock. It stopped halfway. Lucas opened the door just enough for me to see boxes behind him. He said nothing. He didn't need to. The door closed. I stood there with a useless key in my hand, finally understanding that my next move wouldn't be another compromise. It would be a line. Every page spread across my kitchen table marked a moment when I chose their stability over my own. Years of payments, missed chances, money that could have protected my future, all redirected into a house I didn't live in. I added the trust documents my uncle Richard Hale had insisted on when my parents were desperate and read them like contracts, not favors. My name wasn't there out of sentiment. It was structural. Responsibility, yes, but control too. The house wasn't a family symbol floating in memory. It was tied to paper, signatures, and my money. That shift changed how I thought. I couldn't make my parents fair. I couldn't force my brother Lucas to be grateful. But I could decide where my money went and how my name was used. I took everything to Daniel Brooks, an attorney who ignored the family drama and followed the paper trail. He pointed out clauses that allowed me to block transfers, freeze ownership changes, and require my consent for any decision involving the house. Hearing it stated so plainly erased my doubt. On paper, I wasn't an emotional son reacting to a party. I was the person who cleared the debt and the primary beneficiary of protections my parents had agreed. To my cousin Nora Hale confirmed my father had already tried to push the house toward Lucas and hit resistance. Because of the trust, it wasn't confusion. It was a calculated risk based on my silence. That I also spoke to our longtime neighbor Elaine Porter, who agreed to watch for official letters or unfamiliar visits. Details mattered now. That night, I organized the folders and placed them where I could reach them easily. They didn't feel like old wounds anymore. They felt like tools. By the time our family gathered for the summer cookout near Lake Ontario, the house had stopped feeling like a memory and started feeling like a boundary. Almost every conversation revolved around Lucas, his job, his plans, his house. My father repeated his favorite story about sacrifice and perseverance. My mother supported it softly, talking about how nice it would be to see Lucas settled there. I didn't argue. I placed the folder on the picnic table and opened it to a page with my name beside the trust terms. Questions followed. The warmth never fully returned. The story cracked out a day later. Lucas posted a video in front of the house, claiming it as his beginning. I watched from my apartment, said nothing, and stopped playing along. In the days that followed, I stopped waiting for apologies. Everything ahead of me was follow through. On the morning of his celebration, Nora confirmed the filings were live everywhere they mattered. My payments, my name, the trust, recorded and real. Later that day, city officials arrived at the house with formal notice. The property couldn't be transferred while the trust existed and a dispute was active. No speeches, just obligation. Around midday, a tow truck arrived for Lucas's car. The lease was behind. No one covered it this time. For once, the cost landed where it belonged. That afternoon, I returned to the street with Daniel and my uncle Richard. I wasn't there to ask. I was there to enforce. The trust stood. The house wasn't a gift. Any change required my consent. A short window was given to remove belongings. Locks would be changed. Weeks later, reality settled. My parents moved into a rental. Lucas shared an apartment with roommates who judged him by effort, not promise. The house remained, no longer a prop in someone else's story. I finished repairs and made one clear decision. The house would serve my life, not a family narrative that only worked if I stayed small. I stopped answering certain calls. I left some messages unopened. Distance felt strange, but honest. The turning point wasn't legal notices or tow trucks. It was the moment I stopped volunteering to disappear. Paying off that mortgage taught me how easily love becomes an excuse to take. Taking control of what I built taught me something else. Love without respect is not a debt I owe, even to family.